Tier 3. Bottom
Tier
of
three.
tier 3. Yeah.
Tier three, yeah. Bye bye.
Hello guys, we are here with Gionni and Lorenzino. We're gonna do a tier list after the new ban list. Okay guys, let's start with the tier list. What do you think about Blackbeard after the new ban list?
So I think that after the banlist, Doff is pretty weak. Not so bad, but pretty weak. And so Teach is a lot better in the meta, and I think that it's a clear tier 1. I don't think that it can be lower on the tier list, and it will define the meta.
Gionni, what do you
Yeah, I
think?
agree 100%. I think that being able not to do the leader effect in the first turns against Doffy is going to be really huge in that matchup. And as well, Doffy is not going to be played that much. So Blackbeard is going to get a lot stronger. You have pretty good matchups all across the board. And I think it's going to be the meta-defining deck,
So-
at least.
We all agree to put him at tier 1, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Next one, since we talk about it, it's Doffy. So I think that he lose a lot with the banned, with Jimbe, but I don't think it's that bad to put him like in tier 3. What do you think?
It's a little weird to rank him right now. I think like without Jimbe, you lose a lot of pressure in many matchups where you need the extra body. I would put him in tier 2 for now. Maybe it can get back to like tier 1.5, but close to tier 1, but I don't know now.
Okay, so for now we just gonna put him at tier 2.
Yeah, first impressions.
Next, in chronological order, we can start with the OP1 leader, Zoro.
Swords.
Yeah,
The
the master and the sword. What do you guys think?
Zoro is not too bad in this meta, because being aggressive is really good versus Blackbeard, and I think that Blackbeard will be the most represented deck. So Zoro is not too bad, but I don't know if he can keep up with the other leaders apart from Blackbeard, such as Bonnie. So for me, he's a higher tier 2, but I don't think that it will be tier 1.
Agree. I think it can get gatekept by 8-cost kit, basically, but there are cards to play around it, so I would put him at tier 2. It's a strong red deck. Red is gonna be stronger after this bummet.
The next one is low green red.
I think that low is not too bad in this meta, because black is basically dead. No more Lucci, no more Luffy buy. But I think that the deck has been power creeped a lot. A lot of decks now can cheat a lot of dons. So I don't know if he's good enough, but for sure better than before the ban list. I think that I will put him in tier 2, but not near the tier 1. I think that Zoro is better than low in this meta.
Probably. I just don't think low is ever gonna be like a really powerful leader. Even if there are no 4-cost Lucci in the metas, you're still getting power crept by most of the other leaders now.
Okay, so we put him at the lowest tier 2. The next one is Smoker, that will receive huge cards in AB02, but we are gonna talk just with the OP10 format. So what do you think?
I think Smoker is dead pretty much. There isn't like I don't know if there are good matchups with no Ice Age, no Gecko Moria. I don't think there is anything for going for Smoker, right?
Maybe in AB02 with the Sengoku, but for now I don't think he's gonna do pretty well.
I think that Smoker, but also all the Black's leader apart from Blackbeard, are really bad without Ice Age, because it was basically the only spell reduction, and I think that Black in general is pretty weak in this moment. So I think that it's a tier 3.
I agree.
The next one is Boa.
Boa, I think it's a pretty good control deck, but it depends on the meta, because it can struggle, in my opinion, against Luffy RP and Shanks, like decks that play a lot of big bodies and pressure you as well. It's difficult to deal with both with Boa. And but I think it's better than Doffy right now. I would play Boa instead of Doffy as of right now.
I agree.
Next one is Nami.
For me, Nami is unplayable. Blackbeard and a lot of aggro decks. I think that's really, really tough for Nami in this meta because we have a lot of aggro in this moment, I think, and less control. And the only control deck is Blackbeard that basically kills Nami. I think that's bottom tier 3 in this moment. I don't know.
I'm not sure about the Teach and Nami matchup, but if the meta gets faster, Nami peak in a red meta.
So in the highest side of tier 3 at the moment.
Better the Smoker, but I'm no Nami expert, so don't quote me on this one.
Next one is Yellow Katakuri.
Tier 3. Bottom
Tier
of tier 3.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
The next one is Green Purple Doflamingo.
I don't think, I'm not sure about if he gets better or worse, but I don't think it's a really good deck.
I think that the leader in general is pretty weak. Maybe it was good for the Doffy matchup, the Blue Doffy matchup with the Cage, but I don't know. I think that's still tier 3.
Better or
Yeah,
worse than Smoker?
No, I think better than Nami Smoker, but still a tier 3.
The next one is Purple Foxy.
Foxy is an interesting one. I think before the banned it was close to tier 1, it was a really high tier 2 deck, really high in my opinion. Now it depends on how the meta evolves around it. I think it gets a little bit weaker because you're gonna have Shanks, which is gonna have a lot of big bodies that are difficult to keep up with. You're gonna have Teach, so it's a little bit different now. I would put him at tier 2.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was good mainly for the Blue Doffy matchup, but now with less Blue Doffy, it's not so good.
And for the Red Yellow Bello Betty?
I think it's still a fun aggro deck. Again, I don't think he's gonna get much better than before. I mean, Doffy was a bad matchup for Belobetti, but it's too much of a one-trick pony deck, so it's never gonna be tier 2 or above, in my opinion. So I would put her at tier 3.
I think that Belobetti, thanks to the good matchup into Blackbeard, can be used in local or small events, but I don't think that in a big event with 10 turns of Swiss, you can do good with her. I think that the deck is not so consistent. Maybe you can put it bottom of tier 2, but not better than that.
So tier 2?
About last deck of tier 2 or first of tier 3.
So in the middle, like a T2.5.
Yeah, I don't think that's so good in a long run, but you can play it at the locals without any problem.
Purple Luffy.
Actually, I think Purple Luffy gets better with the Jimbe restriction ban. I think it gets back to tier 1 again. It's not bad against Shanks, and I think it's not that bad against Teach. Against Bonnie, you should be really favorite. Now that you have 9 cost Luffy Rush, I think it's a pretty good deck right now. I would put him at tier 1.
I agree. I think that Luffy has an even matchup with Blackbeard. I don't know exactly how the matchup is, but I think that's pretty good. And he's a very strong leader and deck overall, so I will put him tier 1. Not better than Blackbeard, but for sure tier 1.
I agree.
And now we can talk about Enel with the restriction of Raigo.
For me, is almost playable like tier 3, but the thing is that having Blackbeard as a predominant deck will bring a lot of aggro in the meta, so Enel is good to counter this aggression, but I think that in a big event you will face a lot of Blackbeards and Pluffy, and without Raigo you are not that good into them, so I think that maybe high tier 3, but I don't think that is a tier 2 or above it.
I think the deck is dead. Raigo is a really important hit to the deck, and you're gonna have a lot of Pilufis like Teach, so it's gonna be really rough play now.
Yeah, I think that without Raigo, the matchup with Teach is impossible. It was already almost impossible, but now is horrendous. Yeah.
So we're gonna put it at the bottom of tier 3 or
I think higher tier 3 because it can do well against aggro deck, but not higher than that.
And now it's Yamato.
Yamato, I would put her tier 3, as always. I don't think it gets any better or any worse. It's a fun deck to play at locals, and I think that's it.
But worse or better than NL?
I think worse.
Probably worst, because at least Enel has a good matchup into decks like Zoro, Doffy, and Belobetti. But Yamato, I think that, that's fun. You beat a lot, but that's it. I don't think that is a viable deck in a big tournament.
Moria, I think that we can just play into the unplayable decks.
Moria is unplayable without Gigo Moria.
And now it's Reiju.
So, I don't know a lot about Reiju and her matchups. I think that the deck was pretty solid until OP9. Without Doff in the meta, I think that is pretty better than before. Without Moria, so I will put her in bottom tier 2, but I don't know a lot about the deck. And if someone of you knows about her matchups in this meta, in this set, let us know in the comment. I'm not good with her.
So bottom tier 2.
Yeah, but I'm not sure about this.
And now it's Bonnie.
I think Bonnie definitely gets up to tier 1. Gains a lot without with the ban of Ice Age and the ban of Moria. You don't have a lot of the meta that punishes you, that gatekeeps you. Against Teach, you are unfavorite, but you have ways to play around that if you hit your curve. And Piluffi as well, you can play. I think it's bottom of tier 1, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Bonnie gets a lot better after this ban list, because no more black decks, no more Moria, no more Ice Age. That's really good for Bonnie. But as Gionni said, it's bad into Blackbeard. You have to draw a very strong curve like Tashigi, Smoker. You have to draw good, but that's not impossible as a matchup. And I think that bottom of tier 1 is perfect for Bonnie.
And now after section, Lucci.
I think that it's unplayable, like completely like Moria. I don't know.
Probably tier 3, because you can still do some stuff with the Tempest Kick, I guess, and I don't know, 8 cost Sabo, maybe you play instead of Gecko, something like that. You play a lot of 9 cost Kaido, but the deck is not gonna be anywhere close to good, to be honest.
Slightly better than Smoker, because it can run Tempest Kick, but not more than that.
So between Nami and Smoker.
Yeah.
Looking at tier 1, you're gonna lose to Teach, you're gonna lose to Piluffi without Ice Age, you're gonna lose to Bonnie as well, probably.
No Moria, no Ice Age. I think that Bonnie is pretty rough.
And now we can talk about Vegapunk.
So, as we said for Reiju, I don't know a lot about the deck to put him in a tier. I think that the deck is a fun deck, but is pretty weak. I don't know. I will put him tier 3, but I'm not sure about that. Worse than Enel, for sure. I don't think Enel is
I think worse than Enel.
Maybe between Doffy and Yamato. I think that Yamato is better than Vegapunk. Yeah.
And now it's time for yellow-purple padding.
I think that's
actually interesting. It's an actually interesting deck, but it's not gonna hold up against aggressive deck, that's for sure. So I would put her at tier 3, but there are some builds you can play around with her and can do good with it.
I think that the deck is bad into Blackbeard, bad into aggro. I think that it's pretty weak. As Gionni said, it's a tier 3. I don't know if he's better than Enel. I will put him between Enel and Yamato, maybe. But not above that. The deck is pretty weak.
And for the yellows, there is Calgara.
Yeah, I think Calgara still is a tier 3 deck. I don't see him getting any better, to be honest, or any worse for that.
Yeah, Calgara, just like Yamato, is a fun deck, an aggro deck that you can play at locals, but that's not more than this. So maybe top of tier 3, because aggressive decks are good in this meta, but I don't know.
So better than Enel?
Maybe, but I'm not sure about that. because at least Calgara has a decent matchup into Blackbeard because it can spawn bodies every turn with a leader effect, but you trash your own life. You don't trash your life, but you reduce it. So I don't think that's so good, but not so bad at tier 3.
And after Teach, we have the rest of the OP9 leader. And the first one is Shanks.
I think that Red Shanks gets quite a lot better after the bans. It's a deck that can be both aggro and control. Like it depends a lot on how you build it, and even the same build can do the both really well. So I think it can be built to be good against Teach and good against Bonnie as well. Luffy Purple is probably the matchup you are gonna need to figure out the most, but it's definitely possible. In my opinion, it's a strong contender for best deck in the meta.
Yeah, I agree. For me, Shanks could be the best deck because a lot of aggro decks that are good into Blackbeard will get in the meta. So if you go to a big event with Blackbeard, you could face a lot of aggro decks and do bad into them. While Shanks is the most balanced for me. I think that is not the best deck for power level because I think that Teach is a lot stronger with his power play. But Shanks has a pretty decent matchup into everything. If you build with a control list, you can play against Purple Luffy in a decent way. If you build an aggro list, you can beat Teach. The problem is that control Shanks is really, really bad into Teach. Almost impossible to win in this meta because Kuzan is too strong and etc. But the aggro list is good. I think that from all the leaders is the most balanced. I would put him like or first or second best deck, but I think that it's really good in OP10.
So between Teach and Luffy, or better than Teach?
I think between Teach and Luffy, but just for the power level in general of the deck. Okay, because Teach has a higher power level than Shanks, but Shanks is really good in the meta.
Next one is Lim.
So about Lim, I think that the deck gets a lot better thanks to the support, but I don't think that the deck is a tier 1. I think that the deck is still a tier 2. Not so high in the tier 2. Maybe better than Foxy, but I'm not sure about that. And it's decent. It's not a really strong deck like tier 1, but still playable.
So between Zoro and Foxy.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. Maybe Foxy is still better, but I think that mid of tier 2 is good for her.
Next one is Buggy, that received the promo with the OP10 pre-release.
I think Buggy is tier 3. The only thing going for him was Doffy being the deck, and now Doffy is not the deck. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that Buggy is pretty bad because at least with the promo you were good against Doffy, as Gionni said, but now Doffy will be a lot less represented. And against Teach, it was a good matchup in OP9. I think that in OP10, Teach is favored against Buggy, so I think that it's still a tier 3. Maybe better than Calgara, but not incredible. I'm not sure about this.
Highest side of tier 3.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm not sure.
Next one is Luffy, Purple Black.
Yeah, I actually think Luffy does not lose a lot from the Gecko Moria ban. I never thought Gecko Moria was that good into Black Purple Luffy. It has some interesting combos. I would still put it at tier 3 because other decks are just too much stronger in my opinion. You're gonna struggle against Purple Luffy. You're gonna struggle against Teach. Still gonna be an outsider deck. So I would put it tier 3.
Better or worse than Buggy?
I think it's better because you can play around with a lot of things, and I think it's unexplored too.
Yeah, I think that the deck is not so bad. I agree that is a tier 3, but I think that this deck can be really strong in the future because the leader effect is good. But in this meta, being bad into Teach and not having so much explosive plays, I don't think that is more than a tier 3. But keep an eye on the deck. I think that it will be pretty good in the future.
He will have the structure deck support in the future, so maybe. And the last one of OP9 leader, Nico Robin.
Nico Robin has some interesting builds as well, like the OTK Nico Robin build. I don't know. I think it's still tier 3 because you lose to aggro. You lose really bad to aggro. I don't think like your Shanks matchup is good because he can clear the big bodies as well now with the Fell, the new counters. And you don't have many good matchups into tier 1s. So for me it's tier 3.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the deck is worse than Nika, but like better than the Offit. And the deck is it's a decent leader, but I don't think that is so good. And as Johnny said, you lost from aggro and you lose from Shanks, so tier 3 is good.
Now for the OP10 leader, the first one is Smoker.
I would actually put Smoker in the high tier 2, the best tier 2 deck probably, close to tier 1. It's like a different green leader that can combo with 8 cost kid really well. I think that's the best thing going for Smoker. And I think it's still a high tier 2. I would say Born is better.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think that Smoker is a pretty cool leader with a good effect, but not so good. It's just that Bon is better there. So I agree with high tier 2.
The next new leader is Caesar Clown.
I think that Caesar Clown is unplayable. No.
Not tier.
Yeah.
And the next one is Sugar.
I think that that's the same, like not here. I don't see why you should play her instead of any purple leader. It's like just worst.
For the low, green yellow.
I think Low's problem is that it's really bad into teach, really bad, and that's gonna be gate capped still. So I would put him at high tier 2 as well. Probably, I don't know if it's the first or it's right behind Smoker, like between those two. I'm not sure about it.
I think that Low, as Johnny said, is really bad into Blackbeard, but it's a pretty good deck overall. It can do a lot of things, but I think that is maybe slightly worse than Boa, because at least Boa is a pretty decent matchup into Blackbeard, thanks to the spells. I don't know if it's better or worse than Boa, but that's around that tier.
So worse or better?
Maybe better. Maybe better.
And for the new best leader of OP10, Aso.
Yeah, Azov actually gets hit a lot, in my opinion, because Ice Age was, I think, the key card to play against a lot of matchups that you would otherwise not play in. For example, Shanks, for example, Teach. Without the Ice Age is going to be really tough now. I think it goes down from tier 1 to tier 2 now. Probably this will be the best deck in tier 2.
Yeah, I think that Azop is still decent, a good deck. You can play it in a big event, etc. But without Ice Age, the Teach matchup gets a lot harder. It was a good pick because it was pretty good into Doffy, but now I don't know if I would pick Azop to a big event. But I think, yeah, like the best tier 2 because the leader is a really strong card and it has a black and blue card pool, so it's good.
So that people understand watching this, we are talking about Ice in combination with 7 cost spell and with Zoro basically. Ice was key in every matchup, like Shanks matchup, Luffy RP matchup, even the Bonnie matchup and Teach matchup. All those matchups, Ice into 7 cost spell were key. And now you don't have Ice, and it's difficult to deal with the high cost characters and decks that can chain those high cost characters while pressuring.
Because before the banlist versus Teach, you could just go Ice Age, 7 cost spell, remove Bargis and Teach, while now you cannot remove both, and I think that's really bad. Because now Teach can just chain 10 cost, and if he's healthy enough to survive your pressure, you are cooked.
Now for the last leader of the expansion, and then we're gonna review the structure deck leader. We have Kid.
Kid is definitely still a tier 2 deck. It was decent against Doffy, I guess. so it was one thing going for him. Now Doffy is not as strong anymore. You lose to Teach, you lose to Shanks, so I would put him at tier 2.
I agree. I think that the deck is tier 2 because the leader is not so bad, but it still loses from half of the tier 1s. So I don't think that is so good. Maybe between bow and low, that's fine, but not above that.
And now for the first leader of the structure deck, we have Huta, green.
So Uta, I think she has a lot of potential because 8 Cost Kid is a pretty busted card. In the right meta, if 8 Cost Kid is really good, Uta is gonna have a lot of cards behind that 8 Cost Kid, so she has potential. I would say that Bon is still the best green leader, so if green is good, if 8 Cost Kid is good, Bon is gonna be the best leader. I would put Uta at between tier 2 and 3. I think bottom of tier 2.
I think that Tuda has a lot of potential, as Johnny said, but as he said, is not so good, mainly because Bon is just better. So I will put her in tier 2, but maybe better than Low and Reggio. I think that she's just better because Kid is a really strong card.
And now we can talk about Red Purple Luffy.
Red Purple Luffy, I think it gets stronger in general with the Ice Age ban. It's a pretty strong deck. It's gonna do well against Shanks. It can do well, like it can do decent against each if you build it with an aggro deck list. So it has a lot of potential, I think, in this meta. I'm not sure if it's like high tier 2 or bottom of tier 1. I'm not sure about it yet.
I think that RP Luffy is a really good deck in this meta. And as Johnny said, it's at least an higher tier 2. I think that the fact that you need to build in an aggressive version to play against Teach is not so good, because I don't think that a really aggressive version of RP Luffy is good. But you can still beat Teach with that version, and being able to beat the tier 1 is a relevant factor. So I think that is better than Usopp in this meta. I would not put him in tier 1, but I think that is the best tier 2.
Now we can talk about the rest of the brother. We have Red, Yellow, Sabo.
No. I think
Yeah,
no.
So we put him in no.
yeah, BY Luffy is dead. BY Luffy is dead. You have no gas, you basically dead.
Moria was the key card of the deck.
So all the brothers in the structure in no tier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then for Black Luffy.
I think Black Luffy as well gets hit too much, as well as the other Black leaders, like Ice Age and Moria were key, and now you have neither of those, so I think it's dead as well.
So in no.
That's a no deck, yeah. Without Ice Age and Moria, the deck has no power play.
And the last leader release for the structure is Red Luffy.
I think Red Luffy is a good aggro deck, and I would put it near Zoro in the tier list. Maybe a little bit worse, but it has potential. If aggro is good, it's definitely a playable.
I think that Luffy has an insane matchup against Teach, like 80-20, but that's it. He's good against Teach, but bad into others deck in the tier 1. So I think that middle of tier 2 is a solid position for him. Maybe it's better than Zoro, I don't know. Maybe behind Zoro, but
No, I would say Zoro is better than ST21.
So the tier list is finished. Thank you guys, and thanks to Gionni for his time with us. You can find his social in the description, and we will see you next time.